Okay. So again, the first thing I did was new project. And I made it 1280 by 720, which turns out to be the codec of 29.97 frames per second and 720. Click OK. And we are given our After Effects interface, which is very dissimilar to Illustrator and Photoshop, but it still has some familiar tools up at the toolbar. But again, the only tool we're really going to be using is the Move tool, which is activated by default. So we're kind of all good on there. What we're really going to be paying attention to is the timeline. This area, which populates all of our different layers. And then this area, which shows us what we have so far. So to import all those different files, let's start with the Photoshop file first. And let's go up to File, Import, Multiple Files. And so that's already an important distinction between file and multiple files. Because we're importing multiple layers, we're going to do multiple files. If I go in after the fact and create a new layer that I want to import, I would just do file. But right now we're importing like a whole Photoshop document and we want all of our layers to be there. So, are you okay?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I was yawning.
Okay. So the next thing you're gonna want to change is where it says import as. You're gonna change that to composition retain layer sizes. And then click open.
How did you get to the import?
Yeah, so it's file, import, multiple files. And then it's gonna ask you again what you want to do with it all. And you would just say editable layer styles. You don't want to merge it because then it would just be all one file.
Should we import them as footage?
No, you import it as composition, retain layer sizes. I'm not sure why it just made me do it again, but. Editable layer size. What's happening? Oh, okay, because it already imported it. So it imported it into these folders on the side, these layers over here. And I can click and drag that folder and bring them into my composition. Alex, did you have a question?
Yeah. When I feel like when I like that, it says like layer options, merge layers,
Okay, so you'll notice that it gets really huge. But you'll also notice that in my layers panel, all of them are highlighted. So I can actually keep that the case. I can collapse one of the menus, collapse the transform menu, and I can just change the scale of it.
Are we supposed to have 4 different layers?
Y'all should have 4 different layers, yeah.
4?
Yeah, how many? Y'all only have 2? Okay, yeah, y'all should definitely have 4. Manny, I can take a look if you'd like. Okay, I think y'all might have merged your stuff. Okay. So in the meantime, everyone just try to scale yours down to.
I'm having that.
Okay. I'm also lost and I don't know what happened.
We'll go to go to window at the top. Go to workspace. and then reset some. Workspace.
So nice one, two. Oh, yeah.
I still need, let me see, window. Yeah, go to window.
Because I don't know how to see.
So really, it's small. No.
But we'll deal with that one in just a second.
And then is there a reason I'm not able to like?
You would scale it at that point. So you would go to, you would drop it down, like this expansive menu right here.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So like highlight all of them by clicking on the first one. Click on the name of it and then shift click on the last one. And then drop down this one at the top. Drop down transform. And then change the scale by like clicking and dragging where it says 100. It might be that. Oh, that one works too. Okay. Cool.
And then I can just like.
And move it around. Yeah.
Go.
Okay. So is everyone comfortably at that point?
Sorry, what?
Is everyone comfortably at that point? Great. So now we're going to do a little bit of a refresher of what we went over last time, which is just like the very basic mechanics of animating a thing. So mine were like a little out of place. So I'm going to try to fix that. So, okay, for example, my orange rose is obviously beneath everything else. So the way that layers work is just like in Photoshop, whichever layer is on top is going to be the layer that is closest to you. So I can kind of go through my layers by clicking on the eyeballs and seeing which one is closest to me, and then dragging that one to the top. So now my orange one's on top. I don't know why there was an extra red one. I just deleted mine. You could have it just chilling somewhere if you'd like. Okay. So for the very basic mechanics, if I want to animate my orange rows, I'm going to have to collapse all of my menus for that layer. Right now it's layer 2. Once things start to get really populated in the layers panel, it's really nice to rename them. So I might right click, rename, and call it orange rows. And then from there, I can start to animate it. So let's say I want to change the scale over time. I would drop down my transform menu. I would go to scale. In order to turn on the animation function, I have to press the stopwatch. So I'm going to press the stopwatch for scale. Oh, so you actually just want to, it's really easy. If you look up here, you can just click the tab right here. Oh, timeline. Okay. So go to window and then go to timeline at the bottom. No, click that. Yeah. Okay. So for scale, I turned on my clock, my stopwatch. I went out maybe like 10 seconds. And I'm going to change this variable to make it a lot bigger. And now when I go back in time, it's going to grow. So y'all want me to do that again?
Yeah.
Okay.
What layer is this?
This is, for me, it's layer 1, just because I did a little bit of rearranging. For y'all, no, you can make anything bigger. That's totally fine. So figure out what layer you want to make bigger. Collapse the layer menu. So anything you ever do is going to be in this transform layer menu. With the layer selected that I'm trying to scale, I'm going to hit the stopwatch for my scale. And it, did you click transform to collapse a little bit more? Okay, so I turned on the stopwatch for scale. I'm gonna go out in time in my timeline to like 9 seconds. And then I'm gonna change the variable of my scale to be much larger. And as I go back in space, you can see that it's growing. So I'll help anyone that needs like one-on-one help with that, but that's going to be where we meet next. And if you've got that down, try doing something for rotate, try doing something for changing position or opacity. Yeah.
Timeline,
Oh, I got it.
okay.
Is opacity the same as opacity? Like this, yeah, disappears.
Yeah, so play around with opacity, play around with rotation. All of that. If you want to make something go faster or slower, you would be dragging the keyframes around.
That's just like how far you. Like if you wanted to go faster, then you're not gonna set it to like 15. You're gonna set it to-
Exactly, yeah. And if I do set it to 15, I can always grab this keyframe and just like
Just move
pull
it.
it in. And that expansion happens a lot quicker. Yeah. And
When you do anchor point, does it automatically make it so that it extends?
an anchor point. Oh, so this function right here.
Yeah.
So that's a very good question. The anchor point is going to change the location of the spin. So by default, the location of the spin always happens in the center. And actually, when we move into our next one, which is the Illustrator one, we'll start adjusting that anchor point a little bit. So I'll save that answer for our next moment. But does anyone have any questions about that? Yeah. Okay, if y'all are feeling good about that, we can move on to our Illustrator one, which is going to be different. It's going to be a little bit special. And so if you go to File, New, or actually Composition, New Composition, rather. Let's just create a new composition from scratch. Okay, so for this one, you're going to go to File, Import, multiple files, just like last time. You're going to find, what's it called? Person, yeah. Where is it though? There it is. Okay. Okay, so it might be the case that you're not, that one of these steps is off. So try composition.
Keep it in the same one.
No, I would start a new one.
So you would send the results.
Okay, that's the thing about some of these. If you retain the layer size, what happens is it all like stacks on top of, it stacks on top of each other. So for this one, don't retain the layer size, just do. So yeah, there's two questions for each, one for each ear. That was so confusing. So what's that?
So what happens if I did this one for the size and it was fine?
If you retain the layer size and it was fine, meaning that it didn't stack on top of each other. That's cool.
Is this different than the original?
Where was that?
What'd you say, Minnie?
Is it different than the original?
Oh,
Say it again.
Is it different than when they originally imported it?
Yeah, it's only different because you're gonna do, instead of retain layer sizes, just do composition.
Is it fine with still showing like everything on the from before?
Yeah, that's okay. As long as you're not putting it in your on your layers panel, you're all good.
Okay, so just composition.
Just composition.
Oh my God. See.
Position, okay, cancel. Wow, okay, that was a lot. Is everyone there? They've got their person in After Effects. Okay, so what we're gonna learn about is gonna be really helpful if you're trying to animate a character. Like this is a very crude rudimentary one, obviously, but just for demonstration purposes, what we're gonna learn about is called parenting. So do you see on the right-hand side where it's got all of these different drop-down menus? We're going to parent all of these. Like you can think about it as these are the kids and the parent is the torso. So everything that's not layer 5, which is the torso, drop down that menu and say that you want to parent it to layer 5. Okay. Yeah, from here it looks like you don't have all of these layers, which is not ideal. And so once you parent it, you can see that if I drop down torso and I drop down transform, I can change my position and everything else goes with it. If I didn't have it parented, let's say that I'm parenting this to none and I change the position, you can see like it's not all following it. So really good to know and really saves you a lot of time on animating stuff because I don't have to assign a position for all of these. I can just say always follow the torso. Now, what I wanted to say about that is picking your parent, you have to often be strategic. I know I'm going to do a lot of animation on the arms and legs, so I'm not going to make that the parent because I don't want the torso to be like waving back and forth. Like whatever is the most stationary with the least amount of animation, that's the parent and everything else is the kid. That being said, even though the arm is a child parented to the torso, I can still have its own animation going on, which is exactly what I'll do. And I'll also answer Manny's question about changing where something rotates. So go ahead and find the arm, which is, for me, it's layer 3. And of course I do that by like process of elimination by checking the eyeball. So on layer 3, was there a question? Mine says right.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I put the eyeball through the.
It's possible everything's selected, which it looks like it is. Yeah. Okay, and then anchor point. The first thing.
With the right arm.
Yeah, so you would just click on right arm and then drop down the transform menu.
We're doing.
Yeah, so if you now double click on that, it brings you up to its own separate little menu. You can always go back by clicking on the tab next to it. But if you click on this menu, you're able to drag the anchor point to make a shoulder, essentially. I just double clicked on the layer itself, yeah. And I'll help y'all in just a second, but where we're headed, if that does make sense to you, is that now when we do rotation, it's able to rotate around its little axis. So it's able to like walk on along and like rotate back and forth. Okay, that's where we're headed. So if you feel good about that, Then as things are moving, so you'll want to animate the torso, right? You'll want to turn on position, go out, maybe 20 seconds. You got to play around with it a little bit and have him walk out here. And that's very slow. So I will move the keyframe in a little bit. And so as he's walking along, I'm now going to go back and rotate the arm to move back and forth as he's walking. And I'll help y'all if y'all need help along the way, but if y'all understand this, that's what you should do next. It's all parented. So, okay. So you want any of these drop-down menus, you want them to all say torso. And y'all can see why it's really good to have these labels for the layers. That way you're not like parenting to like, oh, layer 2, like, I hope it all works out. It's like, no, this is torso. Just rotating the arm back and forth. Does anyone feel like they will use Illustrator? Okay. And then the rest of your Photoshop. Okay, so now you know where we're headed. Does anyone need one-on-one support? Cool, that's so good. One, two, three. One, two, three. I do think we'll have to extend the due date by a day or by 2 days rather. Just sort of thinking timeline. So next class, y'all would be building out your characters and scenes. And sometimes I can take 2 classes. So I want a little bit of wiggle room there. And then y'all would be animating at the next 2 classes. And it's still a little bit tight, honestly. But I think that's very doable if I extend it one more day or one more class day. For the project, just in general, because I have it due on the 19th, which is in 2 weeks, which would only give us 3 full work days. And I think y'all need 4. So it'd be the 21st.
What was that? What was that? It seemed very.
I can't handle like an executive speech, you're way too slow.
I don't.
Really just like watch people. Like, you take a step. That was pretty good.
But then once after that, it's like, why?
Why are they just walking on the? You can make them trip and fall. Barely confused about my screen. This already should
Unnatural, but that's okay because you, at this point, you would like, maybe make some history better. That's the general gist.
Is it possible to like copy and paste the movement? How would you do?
Yeah, so keyframes are very copy and pastable. You would just So let's say that I like love what I've got going on in the arm and I've got like really good keyframes and I just kind of want to continue those.
Yeah.
I can sort of like
Oh,
highlight
And there's
them,
like,
Command C, Command B.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I tell you all the shortcuts after.
I don't know.
You
if I
learn
know
by
I
fire.
can see, but how- Oh, I see. And then you have to pull the thing like back out to where you want.
Exactly, yeah, it's always gonna paste after where that is. So like edit, copy with property links, and then edit, paste. Mine's not like pasting good. Maybe I need to be on rotation. Edit, paste. There you go. Cool. So obviously you can do the same things for the legs. And if y'all want to keep playing around with that, I totally encourage that. But otherwise, if you want to try to get started on your storyboard, that can be the next thing. And that is due next class. So I'm here for any other questions that come up with this demo, but that's everything really that you need to know is like parenting, importing files. You're really going to be building out your characters and your scenes in Illustrator or Photoshop. So a really good thing to do, especially if you're working on backgrounds, is to make your Photoshop document the size of your After Effects document. So you want to, in Photoshop, make a document that's 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. And that way it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio whenever you transfer it back over. You won't have to scale everything. On paper. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, and I've got paper.
What do you say that those
Just an Illustrator file, .ai. What did you say? Yeah. And then Photoshop would just be a PSD file. Yeah, unless you love it dearly. I got some actually. Each of y'all's 1 to 2 minutes. Yeah. Oh, 1280 by 720. Yeah, so when you open Photoshop or Illustrator, you can always go to like File, New, and you change it to pixels. And then, yeah. So you change it to pixels. Yeah. Wait, Manny, you thought we just did that for like bonding?
I don't know. I thought that was like a separate little homework.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so you are inspiring your storyboard based on the poem that you were assigned. Y'all all know that, right? Okay.
Oh, really?
I like the strong pieces.
Yeah.
I'm good now. I don't think my mom wants to do that, guys.
It's fine.
She gets fried chocolate. Finger
Oh.
That's scary. It's very fucking hand in my hand. I enjoy it. But I was like, this isn't even close to what
Interesting.
Let me portray something. Oh.
We were ready to fall. It was like a zero go.
So this story is like. Multiple photos. Do you have an example of a storyboard? You've been waiting this whole class. Oh, are you talking about from the book? Yeah, 96 questions. Oh my god, that shit is so fun.
What is it? Oh, that is a challenge.
Bro, that's no, okay, that's what I thought it was. There's no way.
No, obviously not.
Our stories are we doing
drawing?
If I can't draw.
No, I'll pull up some examples of storyboards. How about this? But Ataya, I wanted to see it.
It's
Oh, it's been recording this whole time.